Shalom everyone, and this week we're studying Parashat Shoftim. Shoftim means judges, although when you really study the Zohar, there's a deeper meaning to it. The Parashat starts on the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 16, verse 18. Shoftim veshotrim titen lecha bechol sharecha. Judges and policemen you should have in all your gates. Now, you have here the rules of justice, the rules of a system of justice, and this is very, very, very important for all of us today because as we know, especially today, when there's so many debates about this issue, we know that there must be a kind of a trust between all the branches of government and the people. Otherwise, it will turn into a dysfunctional state. And the basic rules are here in this parasha. Why is it so important? We are talking about text that was given to us 33 centuries ago, and it is still very, very relevant. And it says you should have policemen and judges in all your gates, which means every center of population. Basically, the place, the main gathering place that everything happened was at the gates of the city. So that's where you put the headquarters of the courts and the police system. So, and it says very clearly, and they should judge the people a judgment of justice. And here comes the eternal words, verse 19. Lo tate mishpat, do not divert the judgment. Lo takir panim, do not favor someone upon another. Lo tikach shochad, do not take bribery. Ki hashochad yaver einei chachamim, because the bribery will make the eyes of the wise ones blind. V'yisalef divrei tzadikim, and the bribery is going to distort the words of the righteous. Tzedek tzedek tirdof, you should follow justice in a just way. And there are many more interpretations to whatever I said. Leman tichyeh, so you should live. V'yarashta et haaretz asher Adonai Elohecha noten lachem, you should inherit the land that the Lord your God is giving you. So here we have the base aspect of the legal system, the police system, later on about the government system when it speaks about appointing a king. So why should the Torah be busy with something that we think should be secular? And we have an amazing idea over here. And because it says, you could see a lot of commentaries to that, but some of them are so important. First of all, speaking about the power of the judge. That the judge is, there's one of the most amazing commentaries over here when we're speaking about justice, following justice, so you should live. And Rashi, the great commentator, Rashi, he didn't bring stuff of his own usually. He brought more ancient commentators. So he brings the Sifri. And he says, Kedayu minuya dayanim aksherim. It is most important to nominate the right judges because by this you can leachayot et Israel. You revive Israel with the right judges. Ulo-shivan al-admatan, and to allow the settling of Israel in his lands. Now we know that we're not talking just about Israelites. How come? Because when we are talking about the laws of the Torah, we know there is also what is called the 7 Noahide laws. The 7 Noahide laws, we know there were 2 covenants. One covenant, the first one, was made, the first one that is really the one that applies to every human being, that's called the covenant that God made with Noah after the flood. The symbol of the covenant is the rainbow that was the promise of God to keep his side of the covenant when humanity keeps their side of the covenant. And there are the 7 Noahide laws that basically cover the covenant between God and humanity. One of them is exactly that law that we just read about appointing judges and policemen. Why is that part of the covenant with God? And the answer that he says over there is without taking responsibility over the process of appointment of judges and without making sure that the judges will be the proper people, you cannot really have a thriving, living society. Because, if you're doing, once a while ago, somebody came to me and she showed me a contract that her family is making with somebody that they're doing some kind of a business deal. And she's showing me this contract and she's saying, that's a very thick contract with a lot of details. Do you think it covers enough of the deal? And I said to her, look, the problem is not what the contract says, because people today and always, there were always those people who tried to get away with their own interests and stepping on their partners. If you don't really trust those people and you check very well what kind of people are they, so that the contract doesn't mean anything, because when you go to court, you don't know how you're getting out of it. And I just want to mention there's a best-selling book that was published lately by Professor Daniel Kahneman. He is an economist who wrote a lot about this, what I'm saying right now. He got a Nobel Prize in 2002 for economy because he proved scientifically that when people come to make a decision, like we're talking about a very important decision economically about buying a house, buying a business, selling a business, getting a job, everybody thinks that people really make a logical process of evaluation that takes a while, and finally they come to an intelligent result, and that's what makes them make the decision. When you test that idea factually, Kahneman proved that people don't do that. People decide not from their intellect, they decide from other places. It's a gut feeling. Basically, that's what really makes a decision. It's a gut feeling, it's a push, it's a drive, and it's a big research about it. And finally, Kahneman brought it to art to make the definitions, and he brought it out. He published it in a book that is called Noise. And in this book, he speaks mainly, in the beginning especially, about how come you take one story, one crime, somebody committed a crime, and you take the same case in front of different judges, and you're going to get so many different judgments from, it could range from 3 months public service to 15 years in jail. Okay, it's the same case, different judges, different times, you get a total different verdict. Now, when normal citizen is looking at those cases and he realizes you don't know what the law is because the judges are so unpredictable about the way they're going to weigh the case and what they're going to come up with. And when you have such uncertainty, you have a problem of people afraid to make deals, to sign a contract, because when you bring that, in a case, there's something wrong happening, and now you have to go back to the contract and you have to go to court, and you have no idea how the judge is going to rule the case, so you're afraid. So you don't trust the judicial system, and the same thing, you don't trust that the police system is in your side, because you are the taxpayer. They should serve you, and sometimes you feel they're using or abusing the power they were given. And that is an issue all over the world. And why is it like this? The point is very simple. All the prophecies of the Bible are speaking about coming to a generation that we are in the midst of that happening in front of our eyes, coming into a generation in which people are in starvation for spirituality. Everything is so materialistic. So how does that affect the judicial system? How does that affect the government system? And there's an amazing expression I have to read for it to you. One of the great commentators, like 1,000 years ago, Baal HaTurim, and he writes this way. The word shoftim, judges, you have tagin. It's something that you add to the letters. It doesn't matter, above and below. And what does it mean? The judge, when he's sitting on a case, must see himself like a sword is hanging above his head, and any moment that sword can fall and slice it into two. At the same time, a purgatory is open below, and any moment it can fall into it. Why such a vision, such a picture? And the answer is that what the Torah is teaching us, and you can find it a much more detailed explanations in the Talmud, in Tractate Sanhedrin, which is mostly talking about how do you structure court, how do you train the judges. And it says over there, you can go according to the rules of the Torah by the ayora. But if you're not going with loving your neighbor as yourself, your fellow person as yourself, and you're not into doing what is honest and what is good, you are naval birshut Torah. I tried for years to find out how do you translate the word naval? Because in Hebrew, naval is somebody with it's not a good person. And so somebody helped me who was very much into English grammar. And she came with the word, you're basically a protruding rot. It's like if you can have the picture of a rotting corpse in the sun, smelling terribly, that's what naval means in Hebrew. So a judge that judges according to what he thinks is the law, but he's not doing it from the right place. And what is the right place? That being a judge, being part of the judicial system or the police system, this is a mitzvah, which means you are fulfilling your side of the pact between God and humanity in order not to destroy planet Earth. The Creator created for us the planet. He gave us a beautiful place, and He warned us, I build a beautiful place for you, do not destroy it. And the first thing about destroying is how to judge, how to have a system that will make sure that justice is going to give people the safety, the certainty that you have the right for your property, you have the right for your creativity, and no one can take it away from you. You have the right for your happiness because God created you for your happiness, and therefore no other human being has the right to take it away. So basically, being a judge, being a policeman, when you understand that you're basically fulfilling your side of the pact, the covenant with God, in that position, you can overcome something very important, which is the most important thing. You are taking part in the process of tikkun olam. We're here to fix, correct, balance, heal the world after the fall of Adam. And that means to put things in place, to balance when people go off balance. And you do it because that's your mission. This is your calling as a service between humanity and God. That's part of the covenant. And if you don't do that, we know something terrible happens. Power corrupts. And absolute power corrupts absolutely, which means we all know today that transparency is not that what people talk about in a democracy. You know, people speak about transparency, things are not really transparent. The decision-making process, you don't really know what's happening. And the fact is that who is watching the judges? It's not so easy. Who's watching the policemen? And more than that, who's watching each one of us? Are we going through the pact? Do we really observe the rights of the others and ourselves to have the right for happiness, our birth, right for happiness, for honesty, for dignity? The moment you don't have that feeling that the sword is hanging above your head and purgatory is open in front of you, and any moment you can fall into it, you start to think that, yes, we are God, we are our own gods, so we make the decisions, and it's okay, and I'm right about it. And if you go back to Kahneman's book, Noise, and he explains, according to his research, how we are so much affected when we're coming to make a judgment about anything with so many factors that affect our mood, that affect our decision-making process, that not just a judge, as a father, any profession we take, the noise is so strong when we are not into the covenant. We're not developing our connection with the Creator. This is not in the book, but it's basically hinted in the book. That the fact is that human beings are so imbalanced, so not trustworthy. Because when you're not really training yourself daily with, they call it today, mindfulness, meditation, spiritual connection, positive thinking, the noise that is coming from those parts of our personality that could be fear, anxiety, post-trauma syndromes, all of it, there's not one person who's not post-traumatic. Every human being goes through a trauma here and there. You know, life, what can we say, is not walking in the park. Life is very, very complicated, and life is very challenging, and we need to really prepare ourselves for those challenges, for those traumas, for those unexpected events that instead of traumatizing us, if we are not busy deep into training ourselves, our brains, our minds, our hearts, to be there in that place of faith and awareness, awe, that we are answering to a higher authority. As long as we cannot bring that expression, that experience, that presence of whatever you call it, the cosmos, God, the creator, the endless in your life. And this is something you have to develop all your life. With the more you develop, and I spoke about it many times, science is teaching, the science of neurotheology, you can search for it, is teaching when people train themselves in meditation of really connecting daily to a higher consciousness, to a higher presence, your brain is starting to transform. Your frontal lobe is becoming thicker. Your brain is rewired physically. You can see it in CT. When you do that, one of the side effects is the parts of your brain that are responsible to the noise, like you have a huge choir screaming at the back of your head, no, don't do that, it's scary, and all of that stuff. We all have that, unless we are committed to connect to a higher force, what is called faith. When people really are trained in doing that, and the frontal lobe is thicker because people have vision about not what's painful for me, what's threatening me, but what kind of a person I would like to become. The more we develop that aspect of our personality, that aspect of tikkun olam, I'm not just going to work to bring food on the table to my family. I'm giving service. I'm part of this huge engine of billions of people that are working together in order to bring humanity to a better place, more harmonious, more sustainable, more positive, more supportive for life of happiness and tranquility. That's when I have that kind of a vision and I feel like I'm doing it as a mission. This is something else that we are so much more resistant to the effects of the noise. But if we're not doing that, it's becoming all about me. So that's why today so many technologies call themselves either me or I. It's all about the very low aspect of the ego, the very primitive ego. And when you are in the primitive ego, the part of your brain that is the seat of the primitive ego, this is the part that is also the seat of that huge choir that screams, yells, all kinds of fears and upset against the whole universe, including the people that are very close to us. And the result is alienation. The result is separation. The result is distrust. The result is terrible anxieties, fears, loneliness, and depression. It's all starting from that we do not realize that we have a calling and we're serving that purpose. So the argument right now, as I said, it's like the judge must be, or the policeman must be so much in awe. I'm in a mission to improve everything. And basically, as we read last week, when the Torah says, chapter 14, verse 1, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Chapter 14, verse 1 in Deuteronomy. Banim atem ladonai Elochem. You are the children of the Lord your God. And therefore, you should behave as such. Each one of us is a son of God. Each one of us is the son of God. You know, when a son is working in his father's business, that's different than when it is a slave, a servant, a hired professional. You know, there are levels of efficiency, loyalty, productivity. When you realize that everything you do is you are working in your father's business. It doesn't matter if you're a judge, you're a clerk, you're a minister of the government, you're the president, or the king. The Torah says we are all God's children, and we're working in our father's business. When you have that awareness, then you become functional. If not, it doesn't matter if you're a judge or policeman. The more power you have, the more abuse to power you'll experience, and you are going to make others to experience. Because if you're not answering to a higher authority, who is going to supervise you? Yes, you have separation of authorities, and you have checks and balances between that branch of government and another branch of government. It's all people. It's all people. We all know the moment you take God out of the equation collapses. And that's what we're seeing right now in North America, in Europe, in Israel, in the Middle East, everywhere around the world. People are in such a terrible crisis of trust like never before in the functionality, loyalty of their ruling class, government, whoever has the access to power. We are going to, as I said before, when the corona happened, and people said to me, it's amazing, a lot of people appreciate so much that the rat race came to a halt, and we can think, rest, read, meditate, study, be with ourselves. That was amazing. But what happened was people started to realize that they don't like their lifestyle. They don't like the way they're being treated. They do not really appreciate the structure of their community, society, government, whatever, or place of work. Because people had time to rest, and people, when they have time to rest, they have time to think, evaluate, and come up with conclusions. And people said, you know, we're afraid that when we're coming out of the corona, and everything will go back to the same rat race that it used to be. And my answer was, it will never be back. Well, it will take years till we're going to see how displeased, discontent people are with the systems they're part of. Let's say you're working in a big multinational company, you're working in a government, you're being affected by the government, doesn't matter. You start to see that something is not taking right. And why not? Because it's a dysfunctional society the moment you take God out of the equation. Judges and policemen, it's a very logical idea. You cannot run a society without a system of legal system, without a police system that is going to enforce the law. The problem is, again, if you do not see it as a godly instruction and part of the pact between God and humanity, you have most chances to go off the way and to come to all kinds of weird ideas about how government should look like. And the result is that too many people cannot agree with the way they're being governed, ruled, managed. And that is a world crisis. So the words here are very amazing. Here comes another thing, which is also people have to remember that about the rules of judgment, what the sages are saying, one of the things is that when you appoint judges, every tribe must have its own judges. So what if you have a city that is mixed between the tribes? Okay? The two tribes living in the same city. So you need to appoint a court to each tribe. Why? The moment you go to court and you see that the judges are not from your own tribe, you already start to feel they don't know my language. They don't understand my culture. They don't understand my background. How can I trust them to evaluate my situation and to be able to bring justice into the light? And it brings a lot of anxiety and mistrust. Therefore, you need what the Torah is saying with all the commentators. You have and you must be involved in the process of appointing judges to find, because if you do not take responsibility and public is going to appoint the wrong judges, the horrible results of the wrong judges will be upon you because you were supposed to be involved. And what if, I can't believe anybody, I'm not going to vote. No, this is not what the Torah is saying. You have to be involved. You have to be aware. You have to find the way to get involved and to push and make a difference so the right judge will come to power. And if it's different tribes, each one should have judges from that tribe, which means people coming from the same background, speaking the same language, mentally, physically, whatever. And if you don't, immediately after the laws of appointing judges and the spirit of the judge, on verse 21 in chapter 16, לא תיטע לך אשרה כל עץ אצל מזבח אדוני אלוהיך. You should not plant Asherah. What is Asherah? The ancient Canaanites, part of their idol worshiping was planting trees and worshiping the trees. And a tree like this was called Asherah. So what's the connection between the judicial system and planting a tree for idol worshiping? So the Talmud is saying as follows. Baal HaTurim, again, the same commentator we quoted before, 1,000 years ago, he says the word Asherah, that tree for idol worshiping, I think in English it's called holy. Now you understand why it's called holy? Because in ancient Middle East, that tree was used for idol worshiping. Now you call it holy, like the Holy Land. Asherah in Hebrew, in numerical value, is Dayan Sheino Hagun. It's a judge that is not proper, is not fit. Shekol HaMa'amid Dayan Sheino Hagun, whoever who is responsible to appoint an unfit judge to the position, it's like planting a tree for idol worshiping next to the altar in the temple. Okay? So that's how important the whole process of electing judges to office and making sure that these people, they answer only to one higher authority and are not going to be threatened by the news media, by the relatives of the defendant and stuff like this. People who are capable of studying all the laws of that case and like being able to overcome the noise and come to the event of the court case from a place of I am representing God. That's why I was appointed to that, in order to bring balance where balance went, when balance was God. Now that can understand. I'll give you another. So I think we summed it up. So now we can go to the Zohar, and the Zohar says, of course, it's not just about judges and policemen and the appointment, because if those judges, and we all need to be judges. Let's say in every job anyone takes, you need to make judgment about what to do, what not to do, what's right, what's not right, which way should you go, which way you should not go. So the Zohar is speaking about something even deeper than that. שופטים ושוטרים תיתן לך ראש שעריך, בפיקודה דמני שופטים ושוטרים. This mitzvah is about appointing shoftim and judges and policemen, which means it is coming from God's word, not from people's ideas. So the judges and the policemen are aware they are sitting in front of God when they are coming to evaluate, dealing with another human being. When you feel that person in front of you, that you think as a policeman that he committed a crime, you saw him committing a crime, but still he is God's child. And his daddy is watching you right now, and that it happens to be your daddy too. And this daddy is almighty. Would you treat the person the same as long as you have that awareness? Of course not. Having that awareness can save us from so many troubles. This is why we have to remember that we are here under a pact, covenant with the Creator. The Zohar goes even deeper. And he says, the Zohar is saying, just to as a commentary to that verse, that the mishpat, which is the Hebrew word for laws, legality, and also to the event of the court session. Mishpat. Mishpat is the noun of the event. The people who are the judges are called shoftim, or in single shofet. When you go to learn laws, you go to learn mishpatim. It's all conjugations of the same verb, shin, pei, tet, shafat. And as Zohar explains, so the mishpat ubeshlosha kavim. The secret of mishpat is the three-column system. And that's why one judge is this, when a simple case, but when the case is really important, it becomes three-judge system, and it can go up to 23. Okay, now, why three? So we learn Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, right, left, and center. What is right, left, and center? And that's what the Zohar wants to tell us. The whole thing about bringing a person to trial is not to find him guilty. So we found him guilty, so what? What are we going to do with that fact? Oh, we're going to lock him in. We're going to fine him. Yes and no. What does it mean? What the Zohar is saying, that when we talk about the three-column system, we're talking about that legendary system in which when we want to make business and succeed, it says start with the right foot, which means, first of all, start about what kind of service or product you are there to give to people. And this is eternal. This is crucial. If you're not there to give people service, so what are you there for? Because if you're there just to take the money, that's called thieves. That's called stealing. And what didn't you understand from do not steal? You know, Mount Sinai Revelation, the 2 tablets, do not steal. Doesn't work this way. But let's say somebody did steal, and you bring him to court. You bring him to mishpat. Mishpat means balance. Mishofet means the one who balances, not a judge. This is another word. The one who balances, which means, why did somebody have to come to court? Something went wrong with their lives. They have been abused or they abused somebody else. Somebody went against the laws and the result is anguish and pain. So the two sides are coming together, or more sides. And what the purpose of the judge, first and for all, is to see what did the people do? Was it wrong? What kind of damage has been created? And now, how do you fix that damage? And how do you fix it together? And that's why the purpose of the judge, shofet, is to balance the three forces. Yes, when you come to make business, you have to ask yourself first, what is the value I'm giving to humanity? If you come up and you sit with yourself a few days and you can't come with one value, so you're in the wrong business. What will keep it together? Now, let's say you got what is the value you're giving to humanity. Now the question is this project really giving that value? And if it's not, which means you're stealing, you are destroying, whatever, there is some, how should we call it, damage involved in any kind of damage, then the whole system is turning around, which means instead of building the universe in a proper way, you are destroying it. The purpose of the judge is to realize, who are the people standing in front of me? Where did they go too much with the right column? Where did they go too much with the left column? Which means I'm here to take everything around me, everything I see, everything I don't see. I'm here to take it and own it. That's the left column. I'm here to take money. I don't care about the service. I'm here about collecting. That is left column. And how do you balance them together? That's a binding of Isaac. About Abraham, the right column, chesed. Binding Isaac, the left column, judgment. So he's binding him. He's sweetening the judgment. When you can take the desire to receive, the source of judgment. Some people say it's the ego. You take the desire to receive, the self-awareness, and you harness it to some giving, some sharing, some caring for others. When you do that, when you focus on that, you're basically balancing the left column, the desires, the lust in business. But how do you do that? It's like, on one hand, you have to think about how much do I take in order to survive and to thrive. But you have to think about how much do I give? Because with just taking without giving, which is called just the light of wisdom, which is the raw naked energy, it can burn us up. Only when it comes via vessel, acts of sharing, giving, helping, giving service, giving meaning. When we do that, you build a vessel so the light of wisdom can settle in, which means what expands our vessel is not our huge desires. It's about those desires we transformed into sharing. Yeah, I want to be happy in only one condition, that others will be happier along the way. Then you can get the fruits of your hard work. But also being selfish is hard work. You have to work really hard to build a name, to build power, to build the assets, till it works, till it ticks. And finally, if you're not really a spiritual person, you're not balanced. You're not giving as much as you should. And it's all about me, me, me. Finally, I can be just about me and take and take and take. When you are in this place, you're in danger, because the fumes and the fire of selfishness will consume everything you create, because there's nothing that is going to support it, to protect it, to guide it. Without those three column system forces, one is about, yes, I'm here to take. I'm a human being. I was created to take. We are takers. Two, we're here to transform the taking into giving. So again, you go through it, and it's not easy. And it's not easy to have, there's a law for everything you do. How do you share it with others too? And that law is to save us. It's not to save God. All of these mitzvot. Finally, you can reach that place of synthesis and synergy in which you take the right column and the left column, the giving and the receiving, that both are different two sides of our personality, and you bring them together into one voice, one harmony, one goal. Even opposites, when they share the same values, can succeed being together. And that's very important for us to know. And we are different, and there's a lot of things that are in common. We should allow others to stay different in what they are, and bring to the rest of the world all the value that has to share with us. So that's the right column, giving, the left column, receiving, what about me? And the central column is the ability to be able, on one hand, to enjoy life, making a career, reaching positions that are very special, enjoying it, being proud about it, at the same time realizing that you have to do something for others as another job. And when you do that, both sides, it becomes one, it becomes harmonious. And then you realize that nobody can take your job. Nobody's supposed to take your job. Why? Because nobody can do your job the way you do it. But you need others to do the other parts that you don't do, that you might be neglecting because you don't have time, or you have no idea how to deal with it, how to realize it's there. We all need each other. We all need each other's judgment, but only when it comes from that place that, the judge went away. He was here till a while ago, but I got him so tired because I fought back. I overcame my initiate whims in order to come back to my hub, which is the central column, right, left, and center. And mishpat, what is mishpat in Hebrew, means to put the pot on the fire. Without the pot, the water will put off the fire. Without the fire, the water would not boil. You need to put something in between in order to cook water. You cannot just pour water over the fire. It'll put off the fire. So the pot is central column, which is where you can merge together water and fire. The result will be heat, boiled water. From heat, you can make energy. So this is in our lives the same. We need to have the same system in which we really know that the universe is dependent on us, on our balance, our happiness, and therefore we need to find a way to work on these three aspects of our personality. Again, the giving, the receiving, very important both, and the central column, which is hinted in the Shema Israel. The Lord is our God, the Lord is one. It's all made of different parts, but we are one, and therefore we can overcome any kind of negativity towards other people. So this is basically, when we do that job internally, we'll be able to be better judges in our daily life. We'll be better to see how to push our local judges into the right location, the right place, so they can be functional, so the rest of society can be also much more functional. So this is just the beginning. People are starting to realize that you need much more supervision, criticism above the judicial system, the police system, the ruling system, everything, because we are all into one great network. And the point is, if we do not behave in such a way of responsibility, you're basically dangerous to yourself and to others. So let us really accept the idea that we answer to higher authority, that we are part of a covenant that was made 4,000 years ago, maybe more, long, much more. Okay, with God and Noach and humanity of those days. Just to realize we answer to higher authority, and therefore every interaction we have with other people is because we have an opportunity to learn what is the right consciousness, so we can become functional people in a functional society. Thank you so much. Enjoy this week.